I saw him for the first time in a dim cafe on the corner of Bleecker Street. Outside, the rain was falling in soft, deliberate lines, a quiet percussion against the window glass. Each droplet shimmered briefly under the streetlights before sliding down, merging with others, forming rivers that carried reflections of the city, blurred lights, distant sirens, and a sense of something unfinished. He was sitting by the window, a coffee cup in one hand, his gaze lost somewhere beyond the rain. There was something in his eyes that didn't belong to this world, as if he had misplaced a memory and was quietly waiting for it to return. I remember tightening my old red coat around me and walking in, the bell above the door giving a faint, tired chime. The cafe smelled like roasted beans and wet wool. I took a seat at the table beside his, pretending to search for something in my bag while my heart, foolish and uninvited, began to beat a little faster, like it had recognized something before I did. He looked up. Our eyes met. That moment, I swear, felt like a scene torn from a film I'd seen a lifetime ago. No dialogue, just recognition. A quiet knowing that we were about to change something we could never undo. He smiled, a small, effortless curve of the lips, one that seemed to carry both grace and danger. And I felt myself unravel, like silk pulled by the wind. His name was Adrian. Or maybe that's what he told me. Names are strange things. They carry promises we don't always keep. We started talking. Small, ordinary things at first. The weather, the noise of the city, the smell of rain. But his words, they had a rhythm, like he was hiding music between his sentences. I couldn't tell what he was holding back. I only knew that I wanted to be the one he'd trust enough to reveal it. He told me he painted, though not often. That he loved silence more than company. That sometimes, the city felt too loud for a man who still believed in listening. We began meeting there every few days, then every evening. The cafe became our world. A space outside of time, where the rain always fell and no one asked questions. He would bring his sketchbook, filled with faces I didn't know. Eyes that looked like they belonged to ghosts. Sometimes he'd read me fragments of poetry, half-finished thoughts about love, loss, and the color gray. I told myself I was only curious, that this was nothing dangerous, only two strangers finding warmth in the cold. But one night, when the rain was heavier than usual, I caught myself imagining the rest of our lives. A small apartment, 2 mugs on the same table, sunlight filtering through dusty blinds, his hand brushing against my hair like a silent vow. But life isn't a film, and every beautiful thing carries the seed of its own ending. Weeks passed like scenes stitched together by silence. Adrian and I met every evening at the same cafe, always by the window where the rain performed its endless dance. It became a ritual, his sketches, my coffee, the gentle hum of the city outside. One night, as the snow began to replace the rain, he told me about his dream. He wanted to open a small gallery on the edge of Brooklyn. Not a place for fame, he said, but for truth. He imagined a space filled with imperfect art, music that didn't need applause, words that could simply breathe. He looked at me then, his eyes deep and soft, and asked, "Would you help me build it?" I said yes before I even thought. It felt like being chosen by something greater than love itself, as if his vision needed me, and in return, I could finally belong somewhere. We spent weeks planning. We hunted for cheap spaces, abandoned warehouses that smelled of dust and old paint. We filled notebooks with sketches, lighting plans, fragments of poetry he wanted printed on the walls. I began to live between moments, between his texts, his half-finished messages, his "see you soon." Sometimes he'd disappear for days. He'd come back with a story, meetings, sponsors, artists. He always sounded tired, but his eyes glowed with that same promise. One night, while we were painting the walls of the gallery, white, like the beginning of something pure, he stopped, brush in hand, and said, "You make everything look easy, Elena. Like you were meant to be here." I laughed. "And you make everything complicated." He smiled, the kind of smile that hurts because it's too gentle. He took my hand, still covered in paint, and pressed it to his chest. I felt his heartbeat, calm, certain, dangerous. "Don't ever doubt me," he whispered. "No matter what happens." That night, he kissed me for the first time. It wasn't like the films. No music, no perfect lighting, just the sound of our breathing and the faint echo of rain on the roof. It was real and raw and terrifying. From that moment, I stopped being careful. I gave him my time, my thoughts, my quiet. He became the pulse beneath my days. The reason I checked the clock, the meaning behind every message. But slowly something changed. He started answering less, arriving later. His phone, once left carelessly on the table, now stayed face down. When I asked, he smiled. That same soft smile that once felt like safety. Now it felt like a door closing. Just work, he'd say. You know how it is. And I believed him. Because to question him felt like breaking something sacred. One evening, I stopped by the gallery after work. The lights were still on, a soft golden glow leaking through the cracked glass. I went inside, expecting to find him painting. Instead, I saw him standing with a woman. She was elegant, wearing black, her hand brushing against his arm as they laughed. For a second, I froze. The air grew thin. He turned, saw me, and in an instant, his face rearranged itself into calm. Elena, this is Olivia, he said smoothly. She's helping with the music for the opening. Olivia smiled. That perfect, harmless smile people wear when they already know too much. Her eyes flicked over me like I was part of the background. I wanted to believe him. So I did. But something inside me, quiet and terrified, had already begun to break.